Right. Yes. It's another day, another episode. Comrade Che. Welcome to Second Thoughts Conversations. This is a podcast. Yeah, True tries young people just to have meaningful conversations about our day-to-day lives, things that matter beyond. Yeah, we are not gonna kana kuti yangu inogona kudarika yako kana kuti yedu iri kuwina kudarika yako, but us just having a conversation about issues that matter in our lives. I think this is our third episode, so we are trying to build something that can last, something that is consistent every week, chingopa my young people something to listen to. And this week we are joined by a friend of mine, a comrade in the struggle. I met this young man Chirugu University, and ever since he has been consistent in the quest for the things that he believes in. I think we hear more with comrade Che Wano Believe, but just to introduce yourself to the people who might not know you, with Wandu comrade Che Awandiani and the Antanizri, as we start more now Tangane Pap.
Well, thank you, Comrade Mavunga.
Yes.
I respond to the name Narshon Kohlo, also known as Comrade Che. I'm a former student leader at the University of Zimbabwe with the Zimbabwe National Students Union, and now I'm currently serving as the youth chairperson for the Constituent Defenders Forum. Yeah.
Perfect. Comrade Che, parama mune yenyu chigaro chenyu, but the conversation mainly has to do with you as an individual more than you in your official capacity as the youth chair.
Yeah.
Although tichazopinda yenyu ku office kwenyu kuti muri kuita sei ku office, but more as a young person, because we just want to have the conversations about what's happening in the whole board politics, in the economy. Comrade Che is an accountant, but Comrade Che is also an accountant. So tichataura futi kuti economics dziri kumanagwa chaizvo here in your own views. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. And probably to start off our conversation, we can start by you just giving us your own analysis of the current state of things in Zimbabwe, in as much as the current political discourse is as to what is happening. Is ZANU-PF just attacking personal defense? Do we have an opposition irikuita or fight back what is happening? What's your general analysis? Do we still have a formidable opposition here in Zimbabwe?
Well, thank you, Comrade Mavunga. According to my own view, opposition for me is not just those political parties that you see some individuals like your Nelson Chamisas, your Tendai BTs, and so forth. But opposition is the state of mind, Yema citizens. So when you see things that are currently happening, the oppression that is taking place, and when you hear people airing out their views, that's avasi kunakidzwa nezvinhu zviri kuitika. We have burning issues like Cape 3, which is now a law. And people vanenge vachitaura vanogona kusazonyatsoexpressa zvekuti zvinosvika kana kwazvinofanira kusvika. But ukaenda kumaghetto, ukaenda kumavillages, people are talking about it and people are not supporting it. That's opposition for me. So to answer your question in terms of having a formidable opposition, Lenin says that the people cannot lead themselves. At the end of the day, they need a vanguard that can lead them. So currently what we are seeing, the opposition, as we know it, is fragmented. There's this group that they are doing their things. There's this one, your chapkatis and so forth. So it's not that formidable. Pane menoti trust issues here, disagreements, everyone wakwanisa kushanda weso.
Yeah, so what I'm picking from what you're saying is the people, in as much as they are not really supporting what is happening, they are also opposing it, but probably the means of opposing zvisingazonyatsosviki zvazvo since vari kurarama muira yekuti zvinhu zvacho vanenge vari confined staring. But also you talk of the need for a vanguard or a vehicle of change, or a vehicle or the leadership that will lead the people in their opposition. That is not existing. But you stand here representing an organization in some sort that was also leading one to mount a formidable challenge against the constitutional amendment bill that you talked about, which is now a law. What have you been doing beyond the constitutional amendment issues ku CDF?
So CDF is called Constitution Defenders Forum.
Okay.
So it's a civic organization,
Okay.
a pressure group
Okay.
that is meant to defend the mutilation of the constitution that is happening, that is meant to advocate for constitutionalism in Zimbabwe and the restoration of the constitution. So Chatara issue Cape 3, it is against this backdrop, the introduction in Cape 3, that a CDF was formed.
Okay.
So it was formed in March of 2026, specifically with the objectives to defend the constitution, to say no to 2030. But now that Cape 3 was signed into law, the fight is still on. We are now moving from just defending, but to demanding the restoration of the constitution, the 2013 constitution that is being mutilated. So it's also part of the things that we are doing.
For the sake of some of our viewers, Comrade Chair, when you say the constitution is being mutilated, some may not agree with that assertion with our constitution is mutilated. What do you say, or why do you say the constitution is being mutilated? Because no, the constitution is there to save us. Kana ma provisions are in constitution asat save, we can always amend it. And this is not constitution amend. So they might say we went through that process of amending the constitution, went to my public hearings. You might not agree with the manner in which they were conducted. They will say the constitution was submitted to parliament. It went from the lower house to the Senate. Went to law president. So to them, the process was constitutional. And how do you then respond, Marguti? It was constitutional mutilation.
All right. So the argument of Cape 3, in terms of its mutilation, rests primarily on section 328 of the constitution, read together with the provisions that Cape 3 sought to amend, specifically section 95 and section 143. So section 328 subsection 7 of the Zimbabwe constitution protects a benefit incumbent a benefit from a term limit extension. So Cape 3 extended the term of office of the current president Emerson Mnangagwa from 2028 to 2030. But section 328 subsection 7 of the constitution, that amendment, it must not benefit the incumbent. And for it to benefit the incumbent, it must go to a referendum. So no mutilation a constitution about this constitutional amendment bill was not subjected to a referendum so that people can have a voice.
We can go back and forth. Obviously, people have different views. I also have my own view. Probably it might align with what you're saying, or it might not. But what we can agree on is there was a lot of political happenings in Zimbabwe, but there was little to less opposition in terms of what was happening, especially from the leader, the opposition leader, who got close to 2 million votes, or just over 2 million votes in 2023. And a lot of people were just saying, why is he silent? Why is he not saying something? I know, Comrade Chair, you worked really hard in the previous election for the person that we are talking about. As an individual, how did you feel and the person that you voted for, or the person that you thought was your leader then, was not doing anything of substance to defend the mutilation of the constitution?
Well, it's a very sad situation. It's true that some of us, we used to work in the previous opposition movement that was hijacked then by Sengezo Shabangu.
Okay.
So we used to be in the Triple C when it was still led by Nelson Chamisa from, was it 20? When was Triple C?
2022.
2022, yeah, 2022 up to August 2023.
Yeah.
Pakaitwa election. So for us, Wangamborima supporters are Nelson Chamisa who voted for him. When we give you our vote, it's like a social contract.
Okay.
We are trusting you. We are going to do things. Not benefit because we voted for him as the opposition leader because the current establishment SRPF. So for us, we thought that he would do better. But when this constitutional amendment bill that we were talking about came, he first said, when people were demanding answers, when people were demanding him to lead, then first said that there's no constitution to defend. For me, that didn't rest well with me because I believe that the constitution is an umbrella that protects us as citizens. Because remember, when it was signed in 2013, 94% of the people who participated in that referendum said yes.
Okay.
So for you to then say there's no constitution to defend something chaka indoswa ne one more than millions of people, it didn't rest well with me. But well, he's now just a citizen. He left Triple C.
Politics.
Not politics. He left the Triple C. He's not leading an organization right now. So it's his right to say so. However, it's also same as citizens. We cannot surrender our struggle solely in individuals.
Yeah, I hear you, Che. Probably we can also just jump into the general conversation about that whole group or that generation of 1999. I think there are quite a lot of them, and along the way you hear names kuti kwaimbovanana nhingi havasiko, kwaimbovanana professor nhingi vakazodai, kwaimbovanana nhingi vakazodai, including your own leader at one point in time vaitombonzoaiwa vakazomboenda kusirikwa. So what can you say about the class of 1999? Can we as the young people still put our trust into that crop of leaders to say we can really believe kuti they can mount a formidable challenge against the current government? What do you think about the class of 1999?
Yeah, as I've said, that we cannot solely put our hope in individuals. That class that you are talking about, we are talking about individuals like Professor Maduku, Tendai Biti, Nelson Chamisas, and so forth. For me, I believe that those guys, they fought their struggle.
Okay.
You cannot be a hero for two struggles. They fought the struggle for democratization in Zimbabwe, led by Morgan Tsvangirai. May he so rest in peace. They have some gains that they managed to achieve, like the 2013 constitution that we are talking about, that we are trying to defend. It was a big gain for them. But the struggle that we are facing right now is young people. He has moved yashifta haisisiri the same struggle yaifaitwa nana Tendai Biti, nana Morgan Tsvangirai, so forth. So it's now a struggle for transformation. So in this struggle, it's also same young people. We cannot rub them totally to say that our chamete, but we now need a generational vehicle yedu yema young people where we are going to have a central strategic objectives and kuti tirumbonyatsofaitire isusu sema young people because if you look at these other guys most of them the struggle that we are fighting for, that is to put food on the table for my young people, to pay for rent, to buy clothes. Most of these guys wanozvikwanisa.
All right.
So I don't think the struggle rate is literally the same. But we need a generational vehicle, but it must feed into an intergenerational vision.
Okay.
So we cannot wrap them off because they have some wisdom. They walked this path before, and they have certain things that they can still help us. But it's also my young people, we need to be at the forefront.
Speaking of us as young people, I think there are some people who had concerns after probably the CDF and other progressive institutions joined hands to create Sungano. We didn't really see the new faces. We didn't see you, probably you, Comrade Che, Moripo Pai Takangona, the diabetes, the Senator Timber. The people of the yesterday are true to know and are right now, and they are still at the forefront of that struggle, which is is the struggle really accepting us as the young people, or we should start to do our own things without them? I don't know. What's your view on that?
It must signal something for you, and we must question ourselves as the young people. Kuti, do we need kuti tinzi always struggle titambidzwe one silver platter unze isusu we are taking a step back chipinda in? I don't think it will happen that way, because these comrades that we are still talking about, they have rights, they have their own rights to exercise their freedom of expression, freedom of association. So we cannot say kuti avachakwanise kunge vachifoma those organizations. But isusu sema young people, it must be really said for us kuti madhara akaita seayaya ana Reverend Mtata, ana Timba, achena chimusoro, war veterans wakarwa the liberation struggle, ndo vachirwa futi struggle rekudefenda question, vana Comrade Zulu, vana Comrade I forgot, vana Comrade Shorai, they are still fighting even up to now. But it's also young people tiri kutora here the center stage, tiri kwanisa here kufoma our own generational vehicle engechambotara nezvayo, or we are also failing. So I think it's not necessarily kuti struggle haisi kuaccepta the young people, but it solely depends on us sema young people kuti are we ready and do we have the energy and do we have the capacity to lead right now. And I believe that we have that capacity. Maybe what we just need to do is to sit together as young people from different backgrounds and ask ourselves what needs to be done. Then we start from there.
I think that sounds correct and clear. But coming closer to home, we are also seeing kuti there are other issues that are happening in the country. The issue of KOC. I mean, the second wife of the first family's son. Muchitaya sama properties ake. Are we on the same footing as young people? Kuna vamwe vatori kumberi because mavhotera nyaya kuti isusu hatokwanisa kutenga zvinezvi. Are we on the same footing, or there are other people who have really made it zvekuti isusu as the young people we then fail to find kuti what's our common objective, or kungoriwo nevashoma vari kumbodyawo? What's your take on that? Because ndakaona ma-properties akareleaswa mudara at 22 with that amount of money in those properties in your name. Mudara, you've made it. But I mean, what's your take on that?
KOC handimuzive and handitodi kumuziva, but we read the story on social media, news is rubuda, and I'm sure she's in Pasindra right now, because I think it was yesterday back up here. Court also Sironyazi, was it money laundering? Yeah. But coming to your question, there's massive accumulation of wealth that is taking place in this country, especially if you are connected to the ruling elite. As you have mentioned, that Kelsey is the second wife of the son to the president and the first lady. I think it's Collins, right? And it is said for her to accumulate all these properties, kutenga properties, akatora mari ya Collins. I don't know how far true, but just looking at the figures arutaurwa nezvavo zvinokuratidza kuti kune vari kubenefita kwozoita isusu tiri kuchema. So the elites vari kubenefita, because it's not only Kelsey. Unogona kutarisa even the daughter to the special advisor to the president, munhu anoenda kunotenga grocery, clothes South Africa,
5,000 just like that. But anyways, I wanted us to take that detour just to reflect probably as we as young people try to create that generational vehicle, we also have to understand kuti tese tiri vechidiki vacho tiri kumonzwisisa here struggle yedu. Kuna vamwe vakutongoona kuti isusu tiri better off takadai. So but anyways, we have to go back to the issue of the constitution, because last week, as a result of the Constitutional Amendment Act, the president appointed 10 more senators parliament, and some pretty interesting names. Some we expected to see them, and then others we didn't expect it. And one of the people that we didn't expect to see is a person who was coming from the organization that you are currently part of. How was it received within the broader movement, and also Kwamuri Meme as an individual? The people that you think are leading you, probably they also have other views towards the things that you were defending.
Well, Brilliant Dube is a comrade. I serve the struggle for democracy in Zimbabwe way back from 2008, 2009, when she was still in the Students' Union, serving as the vice president for Zinasu. Then into the MDC, then MDC Alliance, CAM, Triple C, and now we are working with her in the Constituent Defenders Forum as the Deputy Secretary General. So for us,
that's a big post. That's
a big post. So for us, it came as a surprise. Kuti comrade engeti naye achioposa the same view razombenefita izvezvi zvakanyatsofamba sei. It came as a surprise, but nevertheless, we are not deterred, because the CDF is an organization with a membership of more than 1,000 people in Zimbabwe. So kwenda kwake to the other side, for us, she will be replaced. There is no doubt, because there are also other capable leaders that are there in the CDF. But in a secretocratic political order like we have here in Zimbabwe, you must understand that maybe taiti tukutofamba naye when she was a plant, when she was a more in the opposition movement, but you must not be surprised.
But cool, probably munhu like you said, like a journey. Munhu akabva from the Triple C kwanga in a post, probably chief of protocol.
Chief of protocol.
Then she came kwenyu, and it because probably akaona unge Triple C isisiri a vehicle really ready to take us, or to take my goals ake nezvaanobelieve or in. to the next stage akaona CDF yave that vehicle yokwanisa kutiendesa kumberi and then probably CDF ubva atoti no pamwe chinhu ichi futi hachina kutoipa sezvandaifunga ubva aenda kune imwe vehicle yaari kuona kuti probably this vehicle will take us there. So why were you surprised nemunhu hamuna kushamisika here upa akadefecta? Because probably she defected from the CCC achiuya kwenyu, because how did he rescind a membership from CCC? Because CCC still exists, and it is members of parliament, and it. So akabva CCC kwanga ari chief of protocol achiuya kwenyu, munaona challenge papa, munaona problem?
Well, all of us, we came from the CCC.
All of you?
Even the convener.
Akabva CCC.
Remember,
so
he was voted for. So there's no need to gatekeep one because it's also in our constitution. We say that we receive any membership munhu, especially kind of believer that we have to fight against Cape 3, we have to advance constitutionalism in Zimbabwe, and we have to fight against this Constitution Amendment Act. And Bina was part of those comrades who went public opposing opposing Cape 3. So there was no way that we were going to get keep and think in the future that she was going to defect. But well, it happens, and it happened, and it must give us a chance to reflect in our internal systems as an organization so that we are able to absorb these shocks. So we are doing that.
So do you have a constitution part where you, and what does it say about things like this?
Well, just to correct you, CDF is not a part.
Okay.
It's a civic movement.
Okay. Do you have a constitution in the movement?
We have a constitution, yes, okay. CDF.
Okay. What does it say about such instances?
Well, she has self-expelled herself from the organization because the principles and objectives of the organization is to fight against the mutilation of the constitution. And now that she's a beneficiary of what we are fighting against, she has self-expelled herself from the organization.
Can I just come in here and ask her, during your introductions, you made it clear that the Cape 3 is now an act that is now legal, as law, now accepted as law in Zimbabwe. And I might try to understand that since it's now law, there's no longer a fight against that current law because it's now already law. Your fight as the Constitutional Defenders Forum is to fight any further constitutional amendments. Now, wouldn't you agree with me to say Brilliant will have a better chance of fighting against new constitutional amendments when she's in the Senate?
Brilliant Dube is a direct appointee of the president, which is Mr. Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa, right?
Yes.
Because she was appointed by the president. So she directly answers to the president.
No.
Yes.
No.
Let me finish. Her Senate position is on the mercy of the president because she didn't come from a political party in a representation in parliament. Because for her, there has been particularly another thing, a constitutional mutilation in Atukutaura. Even my appointments are kaitwa. I found out that after another parliamentary election, Pozo appointed my senator. So Brilliant Dube hana fight anokwanisa kumounta in parliament when she's an appointee of the person who is mutilating our constitution. Because kutazo appoint a president with a senator, it means the president want to trust this person is not going to.
Yeah, but my argument is mainly focused on the idea that she can now speak on the Senate floor.
No. Remember kuti ndambotaura kuti urubva kuti maybe tokwanisa kuzofight next amendments, but remember that the fight yamuva from just defending but to restoration of the constitution. So there's a fight ichiripo and there are legal cases that are still there in the courts anokwanisa kuita se kupa an order kuti Cape 3 yakaitwa sei.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree as the Constitution Defenders Forum to say it's also a positive that you now have a man in the inside?
No. I have said that Brilliant Dube self-expelled here.
No,
so she's no longer part.
No,
of,
I'm saying
she's no longer part
as part
of the Constitution
no, I mean,
Defenders Forum.
I'm saying it as part of your strategy. Can you sort of be a bit lenient? No, I'm saying you can be a bit lenient, right, and accept her for the move that she made, but try to take advantage of that.
She's just one person. That parliament is
now
more
a
than
senator?
400 parliamentarians.
Well, probably we need to understand kuti saka dai brilliant way akaenda akanojoina kana kuti tikusiya chavangu kana kuti kana political party yava madhuku anenge azviexpela here kana kuti kujoina ZANU-PF ndokuzviexpela.
I know she didn't
even join.
She didn't join ZANU-PF. She was just appointed to a post.
She self-expelled herself in the sense that she's now a beneficiary of the same amendment that we are fighting against as an organization.
Okay.
So she's no longer part of us. She no longer believes in the principles and objectives of our organization.
Yeah, I get him. Like for them, right? They don't see the Cape 3 issue as water under the bridge. They believe.
No, I mean, as for me, it speaks to the broader conversation as it relates to the trajectory of the opposition. Yeah. Often, we see in the opposition that if a person makes a certain move that is believed to be aligned with the ruling party or the regime, we often try to distance ourselves immediately from those people. Where in some instances, if we continue to have solid relations with such people, we could have benefited by having people within the system.
Ours is not a political party, as I've said.
No, I'm not saying it's a political
party. It's a civic
party.
movement. Yeah. You know, don't believe out anyone. I don't believe I would fight the struggle for constitutionalism with us. We accept anyone. Remember, in our organization, we have war veterans that are part of the CDF, and I'm sure those war veterans might also be members of the ruling party, but they believe that this issue, Cape 3, is not the way of doing things. You understand? So we don't necessarily say kuti kana uri ZANU-PF takutoti hatisu associated nayo, because isusu chatiri kufaitira apa it's this thing year 2030 and the mutilation of the constitution iramba ichingoitika, because azvinotangira futi paCape 3 only, from Cape 1, Cape 2, Cape 3, and we don't know kunogona kuya Cape 4 declaring Zimbabwe muno mutapa state, and we might.
All right. So my question then says, between Cape 1 nepa Cape 2 nepa Cape 3 paitwa ma-amendments essay wayo, did you have a person in the system?
Person in the system?
A person in the system, a person who was who sort of like believed in your values, but was at the same time working with the people who are pushing my amendments.
During the time of Cape 1 and Cape 2, Satani.
So this is why I'm saying it's also a good, but also Cape 4 you would have brilliant Arimu Senate. Which might be
why are you measuring on brilliant?
No, I'm measuring on brilliant because she speaks to a trend. Again, she speaks to a trend. I have seen the trend. It's not just civic movements, even political parties, and you've clearly distance yourself from being a political party, but still you work within the context of opposing the people who are amending the constitution, and let's be frank, it's the ruling party, right? And I've seen a trend, but if there's anyone a grievance within yourselves, that person is quickly labeled as a regime enabler. You distance yourself from that person. And then I'm saying, for example, with the issue Chavangu, if we had kept, or if you had kept more open relations with Chavangu, you could have salvaged a relationship with Chavangu oppose.
But I think probably vana vakatorwa party kana vaka explain my MPs a lot of things happened bye iwo wakapindulwa mako nembavha yobva yakutorera zvinhu zvako zvese unongoramba uchingoti andiramba ichitaurira nembavha yeyo kuti vamwe next time ane yakubira vanhu next time neimwe mbavha yangu iri musystem yakana. I mean, I don't understand, but I'm thinking when things happen in politics, right, they always create damage yekuti you can't then create a relationship after that.
So I don't know. Alright, what I'm trying to essentially it all goes down to, are we saying kuti muno Zimbabwe within the political or the civic movement there's just black and white, hapana grey pakati?
I've told you that we are working with some of the people watori muzana, but we not believe kuti specifically this issue Cape 3 is not the way of doing things. So on that we can align, but on other matters we can differ. So hapana kuti black and white only, but on some things munogona kumboshandira mese.
So there are grey areas.
Yes, there are gray areas. Remember in 2017, the opposition of Morgan Tsvangirai, Nelson Chamisa and so forth, they worked with other guys who were in SANU-PF specifically to say that Mugabe needs to go.
I mean, these are developing issues. Obviously, we'll see with the probably brilliant. I don't have to go parliament.
No, yeah, because you mentioned an issue here. Could aka appoint one AD, so she's going to be working for ED. But I've seen one appointment I get one AD, right? I don't know if that appointment is it Human Rights Commission? Who then go to speak out against the constitutional amendment bill number 3.
And what happens?
It's possible. No, I'm saying it's possible for someone to be appointed into a position, but now then later speak from a position of authority. Remember, she's speaking as the commissioner of the human rights. She's speaking from a position of authority. After? And she was fired.
Exactly.
But she spoke from a position of authority.
She was reassigned.
No, my argument is
that was a demotion.
I was demoted. You are right to say that, right? But she was speaking from a position of authority to say even journalists could say the commissioner said this, a position of high authority. Even brilliant, when Cape 4 is going to come, she's going to speak from a position of authority to say, as Senator Ning,
she doesn't have the morality to do that.
Oh, now you're
she
saying your Deputy Secretary General doesn't have the morality.
Our former Deputy Secretary General.
Part of the communication, she's no longer part of you.
Yes, we held a press conference. Okay. I'm sure. I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was addressed by our national spokesperson, Jacob Rukweza. And I think out Pategmark. You can go and check.
So probably as we move a bit away from that, because I mean it's still a developing issue. We really know, because I also heard some people actually know for my 10 appointments there was also a need to balance. You don't just take ZANU-PF aligned senators. They also needed to take some opposition aligned senators kuti vanyatsowane balanced chino. So there was that talk. I don't know if you agree with it kuti pamwe the president is the president of the whole country. Vakatoti no rega timbopika CDF. Oh, she was already muno system there.
It's just a talk. But that provision yakapa Mr. Mnangagwa power rekuti vazoappoint masenators inongotaura iye kuti the president ari kupiwa mapowers to appoint 10 senators based on specific skills, whatever they were saying. So the power rests with the president, whether ari kuzofunga kuti ndonotora uku neuku, but that power rests with the president. And you know how these guys operate. havana nyadzi ende havana kana leniency kana kuti tozodawo kuti tingobhalansise, they can do whatever they want. And kuti azosvike pakunzi tiri kumbotorawo munhu weopposition mheno tinenge wanyanyoita sei.
I see. Anyways, there was also a huge back and forth between your former leader, Pangamjiri Tribusi, and your former favorite journalist. I don't know if he was your favorite back then, but that back and forth emanated from the talk of the CCC being structureless.
Kutaura kufarira Nelson Chamisa
vese wangatsimboti mafavorites at some time.
Alright.
At some point they were once your favorites, and yes, so probably you might have some information. Was there a structure in the CCC Pangamari? And what's your take on the current back and forth? Is it good for the movement, or that mudslinging would just take us backwards again?
It will not take us backwards. We must allow debate and public scrutiny. Those who aspire toward public office must be subjected to criticism and public scrutiny, so that we develop the nature of our struggle. Answering to your question, Yema structures. From what I know, Tichiri Triple C, when we used to work for the Triple C, there was some form of structure that was there, although it might not be your conventional or traditional structure that you are used to say that we have the president, the vice president, the national chairperson, secretary general, and so forth. But there was a form of structure that was there. I'm sure they used to call them cluster leaders, street point persons, and so forth. In the wisdom of Nelson Chamisa, to him that was a structure.
Okay.
Even though those people in those positions were not directly elected, but on some instances it may be recommendations and direct appointments from Nelson Chamisa himself.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a form of structure. Although we might disagree with the method yakashandiswa, and I also believe that for me, the effectiveness and the efficiency, and but to completely say that there was no structure in Triple C, it's a lie. Because how does an organization yakakwanisa kufilter parliamentarians, councillors, president, how do you do that without some form of structure? We might not agree with the structure and how it was structured, but it was there. And in his wisdom, Nelson Chamisa believed that it was going to work, although he might disagree.
You disagree with how it was structured. Yes. And then in doing that, I mean, I understand the point that those who aspire to hold public office must always be ready to be scrutinized. But don't you think that some things might be better off said privately? Because now you no longer know who to trust between those guys. Opo says munhu we system, Chamisa says ndakakunzwa uchitaura paaudio nemunhu we-system. You now know auchatozivi kuti wekutrust and upi. I mean, can't that take us backwards in the name of scrutinizing? Can we try to have those kind of conversations in private? What's your thought?
Those conversations can happen privately if there's room for that to take place. But I'm sure Hopo is a journalist, and Nelson is an aspiring president. He calls himself the alternative, right? So the same principles that journalists use to hold ZANU-PF to account, surely it must be the same principles that they also use to those who are saying that they are the alternative. For me, I don't have a problem with that criticism, as long as it is factual and constructive. There is no problem, because when these guys hold SANPF and Mr. Emerson Damson Mnangagwa to account, we applaud. But when they do the same to us, we are now crying for Tauchema. I don't think that should be the principle or the case.
I get you. Probably moving forward, do you have anything to say, Mon?
I have something to say. I don't know where you were going to take the conversation, but probably I'm just going to try to take it back to a conversation that you already held in relation to the Constitution, that the amendments that are now part of the Constitution. And there's this idea that I sort of like hear a lot being said by people from the Constitutional Defenders Forum in relation to a referendum. And I just want to hear the chair's comments in relation to a referendum. Does he think a referendum is a must in a democracy? Because I can give examples of countries that are a bit democratic, or that we can consider to be democratic, but they never held a referendum. For example, the United States of America's constitution now has 27 amendments, but on all those 27 amendments, no referendum was held.
In our context, Mr. Togarepi, it's not a matter of choice, but it's a mandate that is there in our constitution, that the 2013 constitution that we endorsed. And I talked about it, and I cited the specific provision, which is section 328, subsection 7 of the constitution. Kuti kana muchida kuita an amendment to lengthen the term of office of a president, and term of office of the president is defined in section 61, which is 5 years. So if you want to lengthen that term of office from 5 to 7 years, and for it to benefit the current the incumbent, it must be subjected to a referendum. So it's not a matter of choice, or it's not a matter of analyzing that do we need to do it because other countries do so and so and so. But it's something that is there. We are bound by the Constitution under section 328, subsection 7, to have a referendum. That's why we say that the Constitution was mutilated, because SANPF did not follow that process.
Yeah. Answered. Very clear.
I know. I think
very clear.
For the sake of progress of the conversation, he did address some of the concerns that I had. Probably, I wanted to challenge him to say, is holding a referendum a mandatory process within a democracy? That was really where my question was targeted.
And I said that in our context.
Yeah, so I think you will explain it where they are taking it from. I think it's in black and white in the Constitution. But yeah, I get you. You still have something lingering on that, or we can move on.
No.
It depends a referendum on what. Because also in Zimbabwe, you remember we also had other constitutional amendments that were not subjected to a referendum. Remember, this is Constitutional Amendment Act number 6. So there were other constitutional amendments that were done without a referendum. But this one required a referendum.
Okay, can you just comment on why the Constitution writers put that provision in place? I just want to understand the political motivation, because I know there's a political motivation that was behind putting such a provision in place.
Provision to say what?
The provision to say if you want to extend terms, you have to hold a referendum.
I don't know what the political motivation was, but as a matter of principle and giving others a chance, we cannot have Munyaradzi Togarepi ungoramba ungoti tonga iwe wega uchingoamenda constitution kuti anda kuzviwedzera futi amwe makore without having the voice rewanhu vakakuvhotera into power. Remember, a president is voted for by the people, and takakupa tirikukupa 5 years. Kana uchida kuzowedzera unofanira kudzoka futi kwatiri tokupa imwe mandate.
My understanding is it's called the Republic of Zimbabwe, and under a republic, citizens elect certain individuals to represent them and to vote on their behalf. So if it goes through parliament, can you not say it's following within the definition of what our country is as a republic?
Dai constitution yedu yaitaura kuti wanokwanisa kungoita se kungoamenda maparliamentarians, there was no problem because ndo zvange takawirirana, but in our context yedu constitution haibvume izvozvo.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I also get you what Munya you are trying to create here. But it's a long conversation, but we also have to be bound by what the Constitution says.
It's a story for another day.
Yeah. No, we can always try to get this.
I think it's a different debate altogether.
But yeah, it's interesting to see, like, even though we have a constitutional basis, there was also a political motivation. But I think, from my own understanding, it's to do with limiting the appetite for power. But if we then put my hindrances in the way to say with wakapasa ichi ufana upasa ichi uona mnazo uchigona chese ichocho
remember
limit dictatorship.
Remember isingori issue a representation chete, but it's an issue yekurenew mandate. So aungorenew mandate yako iwe usina kudzoka kwatiri, unofanira kudzoka isusu wakupa mandate tisofana kuirenew chidzokerai munoita se munowedzera futi dzimwe 2 terms.
Now with the Constitutional Amendment Act, imimi muchaelect a president directly. You are now going through that route yangachawana munya yekuti we elect some few people, then those few people will now elect the head of state. What's your view on that? Say, can we build a responsible government in elect with only the parliamentarians?
Question yako. Alright, continue answer question yako. First of all, our fight yedu isusu haisati yapera to say that tichazotosvika route iyoyo, say that tichazo electoral president in my parliament. Because remember, I've said that we are still fighting for the restoration of the constitution, and there are many legal cases that are there. So now let me answer you in the court. There's going to be a decision in September when the Constitutional Court is going to pass judgment on these issues. And if it's not in our favor, the citizens always have other means that they can fight that are provided for in the Constitution under Section 59.
Okay.
Yeah. But kuanza paruda in the case yekuti ndo kwatasvika in our context yakaita seZimbabwe, where we are facing state capture, where we are now seeing the rise of oligarchs, capturing the executive and also capturing the parliament. We now have people like Kuda, Tagwire in parliament. So given our context yedu Zimbabwe, because remember context yedu na environment ya Zimbabwe yakasiyana nemamwe countries. So I don't see us having an effective president anova from that parliament, because there's going to be use of money, and we have been seeing it zvichitoitika where my parliamentarians are given a motokari, a mari, nema individuals like your weakness. So these oligarchs can influence the decision in over Buddha in that parliament using money.
All right. Are you saying characters like Kudata Gurei do not deserve to be in parliament? Because in my understanding, they are citizens of this country and they do have the right to be in parliament.
They have a right.
And to even become president also.
They have that right to be in parliament and to become president. But question yamavunga was not kuti vane right here ati do we see having an effective president coming out of that parliament? And I responded by saying that with our context where we're having state capture nema oligarchs, we might not see, because money is going to influence politics, said with Zimbabwe.
And then also to expand more on the issue of state capture and oligarchs. Now, private individuals are giving public office holders money. Don't you think also as my CDF, you must also extend your fight, not just fighting for the restoration of the constitution, but also kuti tive nema measures ekuti people in public offices cannot just be given cars because wangochisupport bill randokufarirawo sezvatakaona. I think the FIFA president was once offered a car, but there are FIFA statutes that prevented him from taking that car. Can we not have kind of those laws into our politics yokuti nokuti vamatangira vasimbisa Cape 3 havakwanisi kungonotora mota yavapiwa navachivhayo? What's your take on that? And can the CDF also extend its fight beyond just restoring the constitution, but also extend giving us laws that can protect us from state capture and oligarchs?
Yeah, I think it will be a positive development in our politics in terms of protecting our parliament, so that their decisions are not influenced by external forces, but solely derived from what the people they represent really want. So I think it's a positive development that we can take and advance our fight as CDF. I don't see any problem with that. I think it will help us a lot.
Yeah, Comrade J, we can spend the whole day tripping up, but obviously we would want to end our conversation with a little bit of hope. You're also a young person, you are also a Zimbabwean. Do we have any hope of something chiri positive coming out of Makots in relation to the CDF's challenges, with constitution never restored? And what is that looking like? That challenge. My challenge, I would try to reverse what was done here, and what are the prospects of success?
Yeah, our good challenges are to reverse what was done, because we believe that it was unconstitutional. So since this is a constitutional amendment bill, it must go to the Constitutional Court. There might be positive change that might come from those courts, because remember, at some time, CAB 2 was set aside through a Constitutional Court order. So for us, because also contested matters, there's also judicial capture. Right. So politicians might also influence outcomes at judiciary. So it also primarily rests with us as the citizens to say that, are we putting political pressure on the Constitutional Court to respect the will of the people of Zimbabwe and say that this Constitutional Amendment Act is unconstitutional? And if ZANU-PF wants to further their fight, they must subject it to a referendum. And so also as young people, what we must never do is to lose hope. We cannot lose hope. Let's continue having these discussions, conscientizing each other, so that people know where we are and where we are going. It might be hard, it might be painful. Sometimes we lose, but what we must never do is to lose hope.
Thank you, Comrade Che. That was brilliant. I think it's also what we are also trying to do, like I explained, that we must never tire to explain to young people, because what we have just done, we have opened eyes which would know there is actually something that has happened. Because as a person, I actually thought it was over after the bill was signed into law, but now we know that CDF is doing something. You speak more on the prospects of success, but that Constitutional Amendment 2 was set aside gives us a little hope that probably this might be something that can happen.
But I mentioned issues to put political pressure.
We need to put political pressure. Okay, I get you. Munya, anything else for Comrade Che before I end as well?
Yeah, maybe one or two things, but not trying to spoil the mood that the chair had left our audience with. To go back to the conversation of some of their fellow revolutionaries that they have in their struggle, to say there are instances where you can be able to utilize someone even if they are playing for the other team. So going back to the argument that we had on Bina, to say, I think you should build a relationship or continue to build a relationship with Brilliant. You never know how she's going to act when Cape 4 comes into parliament.
It's not part of our resolutions and it's not part of our strategies as the Constituent Defenders Forum. But if you insist, Comrade Munyarazi, maybe you can give us a framework of how that can work and where it is.
No, I'm just saying, don't paint her all black. Consider some of the things that you achieved.
Is she your relative?
No.
Whoever, because you seem to be defending.
No, I'm not
Since we started this conversation,
I'm not
your
defending.
points are only on
brilliant. No, I'm not defending him. But remember, I said there's such a trajectory that a trend that I saw with forces that are fighting the regime or the ruling party, to say the moment someone acts or tries to act like they are fighting or they are switching teams, we distance ourselves completely. And I'm saying we might benefit from a change of strategy, to say, let's keep open communications with such people. To see Ropa Mangwana. Just in case. I'm saying just in case. I'm not saying
she's a member of parliament, so maybe she has a constituent that she represents. She will get those conversations from any constituents that she represents, not the Constituent Defenders Forum.
So yo munya
unotaura naye
kuti tiprevent che kuzongoudza kuti chifoma yako CDF ngatichizira parapa. I mean, thank you so much, Che, for coming to us. We really appreciate, I mean, having these conversations, and we'll call you again kana tikanguva nedzimwe nyaya dzekuti toda kuti tiexplain, because we know Che is not only part of the CDF, but you have a broader mandate yamuri kuplay in the society, and we always want to have young people like you who explain issues very basic pasina kuwanza jargon nekudai so. But that was brilliant, and we thank you for being here with us. Any last words before we go?
Well, thank you, Comrade Mafunga. Thank you for hosting us. Let's keep on these conversations. Like you have said, Thomas Sankara once said that we must never get tired of explaining to our people. So let's continue having this conversation, shaping the narrative and shaping the political discourse of our country.
Yes, you heard it from Comrade Che. Until next time,
thank you.
We are out.